Okay, I heard a lot of good discussion. Two interesting things I think I picked up on. The first was that age doesn't matter. Some people talked about very sage, older mentors that they had in their life when they needed it, and some of us talked about infants and toddlers being that mean. The other thing that I heard was that sometimes Barnabas comes by the ministry we do. You know what I mean? It's kind of like mission trips, that when you go on them, you think you're the one doing the ministry, but it ends up you're the one being ministered to. And so, I don't think this ministry will be a labor that doesn't give fruit back, that you will find something that returns to you in that same way. Just as Luke viewed Barnabas as a good steward, and others have been a Barnabas in your life, each of you have been asked into this study and ministry because I believe you're faithful stewards. Again, it's not just because of your monetary gifts, but of your spiritual gifts. The study of Barnabas in the book of Acts will be one to instruct and encourage each of us in the mission field that I see as the blatant charge. That we have our community, our county, our state, our country, our world as a mission field, but this is really specific to the blatant charge to build up disciples. We're given limited information about Barnabas and his background, but I just want to cover some of the things that we do know. We're told that he was a Levite from the island of Cyprus in verse 37. Now, a Levite, does anybody know?
As a priest.
Came from a priestly heritage. And it's from the tribe of Levi, the Hebrew tribe of Levi. But here's the interesting, when I was researching it, it said when Joshua led the Israelites into the land of Canaan, Joshua 13:33, if you want to look this verse up, it says, the Levites were the only Israelite tribe that received cities but were not allowed to be landowners. And this is from Deuteronomy 18:2. This was the understanding of why. Because the Lord, the God of Israel himself, is their inheritance. I think this may have been why Barnabas was so willing to give up his land and to give all his property and lay it at the apostles' feet, because his lineage, his history, they didn't receive land. They knew from the beginning, what I pray we know, that our inheritance is God. That our possession, what we cling to in the end, what people know we desire, is the Lord. And so I think that's a really important characteristic that comes from his heritage. That can come from a Barnabas in your life. If you saw someone who lived that example, it's really going to help us out. We're not told whether the land he sold was from Judea or in Cyprus. We know from Colossians 4:10 that he was either the cousin or he was an uncle to Mark the evangelist and the gospel writer. So we know that he was related to the Gospel of Mark. We know that he was either uncle or cousin, and he would also become a great mentor to him. So we're going to see some of the people he mentored, namely Paul, but especially, it's just you don't just mentor one person, that was a gift, and so he shared that. We know that Barnabas was a name given to him. Scripture tells us that he was named Joseph. In verse 36, it says there was a Levite, native of Cyprus, Joseph, to whom the apostles gave the name Barnabas. So he was Joseph to everybody else, but they called him Barnabas, which the Scripture tells us means son of encouragement, and it can also be translated son of exhortation, someone who's teaching, who's speaking, who's interacting. Can you imagine being so encouraging that people say, we got to change your name? Like that's just who you are. Like your name isn't, you're not a Robbie, you're a Barnabas. Like people want it. Robbie actually made that joke about Jude. He said maybe we should have named him. And so it's just that character is so strong that they said, we got to change your name. I got a name when I was in high school for my baseball team, and I don't know if I told this story or not about being Sweet Pea. But my baseball, and you can look in my yearbook when it has the caption under my baseball pictures, it was Sweet Pea, Pee-wee, and Fish. That was my best friends Kevin, Zach, and me. The way I got the name Sweet Pea, and I'll try to condense this because I'm sure y'all hear it on a Sunday at some point, is I was a freshman on the varsity team, and it's kind of like you're hazing. And we grew up in really, like Bladen County, Beaufort County didn't have big, so we traveled to Columbia, to Creswell, to Cape Hatteras, to all the little small blips on the coast to play our baseball. And I remember we went to Columbia, and they have their baseball and their softball fields on separate areas. And so our baseball game had finished early, and we were sitting there, and I saw a girl that was sitting on the bleachers by herself. And I wanted to be cool and impress all the other guys on the baseball team, so I went down and I started talking to her. Well, as I was talking to her, the 6'5" pitcher that was on Columbia's team came up to me and said, "Why are you talking to my girlfriend?" My response was that she was talking to me and he was being rude, so he should leave. At that point, he didn't appreciate it. He did the very manly shove, but nobody wanted to fight, so he shoved me. My coach came in there, and on the bus ride home, he said, "Sweet Pea, come up here." And I didn't know who he was talking to. He said, "Jonathan, I want you to sit by me the whole trip home." He put his arm around me. He said, "You think you're a ladies' man." He said, "But I get real jealous. So all season, you're going to be my Sweet Pea." And he said, "Every time we're not on the field or on the bench, you sit beside me because you're my Sweet Pea." I thought that was something that would go away, but at our very next baseball game, when I stepped in the batter's box, he said, "All right, Sweet Pea, bring him home." And at that point, for the rest of my high school baseball career, I was known as Sweet Pea. So I want you to get in the groups again and to talk about it. That if people would call you a name, maybe they do call you a name, what would they call you? And if people describe you, would they say that's a Barnabas? That's an encourager. So I want you to get in your groups and think about that question. The first is, what would people call you? And then speak specifically about being an encourager. Would they call you an encourager?
I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna call him an encourager. He really did keep me going when I was down. Before me was born scared to death. You know, it wasn't the same situation, but it was a similar situation. And this guy right here pushed me through it. I went to his house, talked to him at night. And one thing he told me was, love your family more and more every day. And I strive to do that. So I won't forget it. This guy, he done it for me. He helped me. So yeah, he is Barnabas.
Kind of goes back, what he said earlier, get back what you give, because he was there for me too. We talked to each other. I was thinking they were going to talk to me about like Joseph, you know, Robbie, he was a good looking fella. But, yeah, that's just, somebody else good. I can't.
Finish that one up.
It's like I said when I went around talking, you know, I was raised on the farm, and my daddy taught me all the way through that if you had something and the man beside you didn't, you make sure he had something too. Yeah, we were working out there, the table was open to everybody. Yeah, you never turn your back on anyone. And that's kind of that's how I was raised, and hopefully that's how Cooper will see me, because that's how I saw my dad. And yeah, I hope that's how people see me.
When it comes to sharing with other people,
I didn't used to be a sheriff. This man right here is a sheriff. He was raised that way. Same, I think it's in the farm. It's in the farming blood. What's mine? In abundance is.
But you're easy to talk to.
And,
I think people would
years that we've been blessed to have together.
things that, because it would
He
be.
has really taught me to be a person to share, reach out and see the needs for other people. So that I would have to say that he certainly planted a seed there. And I'm sitting at a table with two special people in my life. Carried that on, that example on, and been an encourager and a
The
prayer
same
warrior
words, yes.
in so many ways.
A teacher,
I've
I
been
think
called a
that
prayer warrior,
when
teacher,
teachers
I don't
can't
consider
see
myself
themselves more like their mother,
a great prayer warrior,
and a
but
lot of
I
times students
will
will
pray
say,
for
help
people,
me.
and I will continue to pray
Even
for them
now,
anytime
like
I'm asking.
community.
And I will ask them, and I don't care if I'm in the grocery
can
store or
text
sitting
my
at the lunch
students all the
counter at
time.
Bill's Teapot over to the shopping center.
So I don't know what.
I'm not afraid to pray in public.
They call me Madonna.
I'm proud to let people know that
So,
when you go to
it's
is
somehow
the
Madonna.
Lord.
Well, you know, I never thought about it before, and please, stop crying. I think about what all the children call me, Bibi. Never thought about that before, you know, what that can mean to a child. And it goes back to, I mean, all the church children call me that, but it goes back to when I used to babysit for Samantha. I think Samantha and Chris were probably the first ones that started. But, and then my grandchildren, that's what they started calling me. And then our children at church started calling me that. And I thought, you know, I hadn't really thought about what that could, what difference that could make to a child that they think about me as Bibi and who Bibi might be to them, you know.
And our children at the church,